You are succeeding in a lot of different areas. Like business, you've become like a rock star, and like with Next Ventures, the cycling, like it seems like everything that you do, there is like a massive level of success. So to me, that is indicative of someone's like mindset and will and determination and ambition and all these things. Is there like actionable things that people can do to become better that way?
I mean, look, I grew up with a mother, a single mother, more or less a single mother, that had me very young, and she overcame a lot of odds, different than my obstacles. And she wasn't an athlete, but she never quit. Like she was constantly just trying to defy the odds, right? Whether it's, having a kid at 17 years old in Dallas, Texas. She's tough. She has grit. She's overcome a lot. I do think that that's just a part of my DNA, but I've also absorbed a lot of that just by having watched her as I grew up.
Let's go back to Little Lance. Let's kind of like chronologically do this,
Little
okay?
Lance.
Because when you were Little Lance, because you were not always, you didn't start off as a cyclist, right? You started off like you were doing swimming, I heard.
So, yep. Swimming was my first serious sport.
Do you still swim?
I occasionally, it's funny, when you're my age and you swim seriously, you would swim what they call masters.
Right. I know masters.
Right. But most people listening may not know masters. Masters is, it looks like a swim team for old people.
Yeah.
So I grew up swimming with kids. And so, and if you're a serious swimmer at that age, you swim what they call age group swimming. Right. So kids, when they're young, they can sort of do the summer country club swim league, which is just in the summer. Or if you swim year round and you swim more serious, you swim age group, right? Mm-hmm. So like Michael Phelps, Katie Ledecky, they grew up swimming age group swimming. So that means they swam twice a day, every day, 12 months a year. That's how I grew up swimming. So then when you get older and you want to be a serious swimmer, you swim masters, right? And so that's when like 15 years ago, I started swimming again seriously. And the masters team that I swam with is like 2 blocks from my house. I could walk there every day.
Yeah.
And I don't go that often. And I haven't been in a while, but I still enjoy swimming. I don't love chlorine.
Yeah, no,
to be honest with you.
Yeah.
I mean, chlorine, if I lived at the beach, I would probably swim open water. I'd probably swim almost every day. But the chlorine thing, and just
it kind of steers you away from that. So my question more was like, okay, so you started off in swimming, and then how did you get into cycling? It seems to me like your endurance is off the charts genetically. Were you tested? Did you have was it just something? How did you know that cycling was going to be the sport? You did swimming, which was an endurance thing.
And then I started doing triathlons.
Right. Was it like...
And then I turned pro in triathlon when I was 15.
Okay.
And so then I knew that I was getting results as a 15-year-old kid racing against 30-year-old men.
Right.
That you didn't need to be in a lab to know that you had some... that I had the DNA or the talent to be an endurance athlete. But at that time I grew up in Dallas. So I got asked to go be tested at a place in Dallas called the Cooper Clinic, which is pretty well known. It's a place that it's not dissimilar to Mayo Clinic or other places where folks will go and get tested. So I went as a young kid, and the testing, I did a VO2 max test and all these things. And the physiologist was like, wow, I'm not sure we've seen a VO2 like this before. So, but again.
Do you remember what it was?
I mean, I'm 53. That was 40 years ago. So no, but it was high.
Yeah. I heard it was 86. I don't know if that was right. That's what I read.
Who knows? It's funny. VO2 is having a moment again. Like I
Huge.
feel like, when we were when I was that age, and then when I was cycling and at the Olympic Training Center, we would test VO2 max. And then it kind of, maybe it was prohibitive because you needed the lab, you needed the equipment. And now they've got these mobile units, and so it's having a moment again.
It is.
So anyhow,
But
but it's there's a lot of different variables when it comes to VO2 max.
But why? Okay, because another endurance, like why cycling and not running? Like why did you single out cycling?
Well, a couple things. One, I enjoyed cycling more.
Okay, that's a good
And
reason.
who wouldn't?
Yeah.
Right. I mean, if you have the option to to go for 4 or 5 hours and see 80 miles of beautiful terrain versus and no impact on the body versus, seeing 15 miles of beautiful terrain and a lot of it. And I was better at cycling. I quickly figured out that cycling was my strength. Now, when I was a young kid and doing triathlons, I could swim with the front group. So I would come out of the water with the leaders. I would come off the bike with the leaders, and they would run away from these guys that I would race with would run away from me. Because they're 30-year-old men. They run a lot faster. And so I still would finish top 10, but I knew that cycling was going to be the best of the three. So then I started to just gradually transition to cycling, and I went to the Olympic Training Center, and then I got selected for the Junior World Championships team, which was in 1989, which was in Moscow,
Right.
which is kind of wild. I mean, this would have been in August of 89, before the wall came down. Like I was a 17-year-old kid in Moscow. Like it was
That was crazy.
yeah, I'm
right?
like, this is, and so that was, and then pretty much a year or two later, I switched full time.
How old were you when you won the first Tour de France? How old were you?
27 years old.
Your first one was 27.
Yep.
So
I think that's right. I'm trying to do the math. 1999. Yeah, maybe 28 actually. Jeez.
Well, because I want to how do you train for that? Because I think you hear it's super grueling. It's like it's
That's
like,
all true.
It's
it is grueling.
Horrible. People you hear like little rumblings, but people who are not cyclists or who don't follow it, can you describe why it is as grueling as people hear rumors to be? Like, why is it so dangerous on top of it?
Very dangerous. And I mean, I think that's the thing, that it's obviously an endurance event.
Obviously.
Right? It's 3 weeks. It's over 2,000 miles. It's every day. There are 2 rest days, but it's recovery is difficult. But there are 200 guys on the road all trying to be at the same place at the same time. So you're not just, and of course we are on a team. In my generation, we had 9 riders on the team. So we're racing against 190 other people. It's hard to control that. And, the roads are technical, there's crashes, there's mechanicals. And so there's a lot, like it's a mix of endurance, sort of NASCAR, because you're fighting for position all the time. Strategy, politics, right? Since you have the politics piece, when you think about it, if you're 9 guys trying to control 200, you have to be political. No team can control that. You're constantly trying to find allies and friends in that peloton. And those people that are your allies and friends on day 2 might be your enemies on day 8.
Wow.
So you're constantly trying to figure out the dynamics of this living thing that's going down the road known as the peloton.
And so what's the how do you train for that? Like, what's the training schedule? Like, how do you, because it takes a very particular mindset person to be able to even go through the grueling training schedule. Like, do you remember what you did day in, day out?
Well, first of all, there's a lot of racing beforehand.
Okay.
So it's not, you don't just show up to the tour and say, I've trained perfectly. I mean, we would do, anywhere from 40 to 60 race days before that. then obviously a lot of training, a lot of reconnaissance.
Do you have to do weight training? Because you have to be like skinny, right?
Yeah,
like very small.
not a ton of strength training.
So what do is it all endurance training? Like, did you do like mental mindset tricks? And do you like, how do you psychologically prepare for that? Like, what, is there anything on that side?
No. I mean, we other than being convinced I was going to win.
Like, no, exactly. But you have to believe your belief system on yourself has to be so strong, like that you actually believe that you can actually.
Yeah. I mean, not the first couple, but after I got a couple under my belt, I was pretty sure we were. I mean, look, anything can happen. You can have all these things I described: accidents, illnesses, bad luck, or just bad luck. Caught out in a crosswind, lose 5 minutes. I mean, this can.
But what made you like? I guess what made you so much like? This is the thing. Okay, so I'm gonna not beat around the bush, obviously. Like, why is it that everybody on the tour, like you got caught for doping, but everybody was doing it, right? So like the playing field right away.
Technically, I didn't get caught, but that's another.
That's
discussion.
a whole other discussion. Yeah. But my first.
I was certainly exposed, but not caught.
That's true.
If that makes sense.
No, explain it.
I mean,
because for people who don't who are not familiar with of course I know, but people who are like younger, who are listening, who don't really know all the details and minutia, people would just say, yeah, Lance Armstrong got caught for doping, right?
That's fine too. I mean, that's if that's sort of the story or the storyline that has survived, then that's fair too. But what I was just half joking. I mean, being caught. We were tested every day.
Right. Well,
so being caught would be like you tested positive. I mean, there was none of that. It was way more complicated. It was more of a legal process.
Yes.
Than a. It was a success of the legal system and not a success of the anti-doping system.
But why do you think that you were made to be such a poster child? Like everybody was. My point was, it's so grueling, it's so horrible. I feel like it seems to me the baseline was everybody was doing it, and you still were in that baseline so much better and exceeded everybody else.
Yeah, I think that's right, and I think that's not a popular answer, but the popular answer isn't an informed answer.
Right.
The informed answer is, and this is, I've talked a little about this in the past, the only people that matter are the people who were in the race. That's it. In my opinion, that's all I care about. Now, if 90% of them were yelling and screaming, lynch this guy, then that would suck. But the reality is 0% of them have said that. So they're all that matter. Right, the people who were in the war and in the battles and in the trenches and in the fights and were head to head, that's all that matters, right? And so,
what would be one thing that you wish people knew that people don't realize or don't know? If there's like one piece of information that's been very misbranded in the media, what would it be?
I mean, look, there's. I'm not going to get into the details of it because I've moved on with my life and I feel like I've done a decent job moving on with my life. What I will say is that there were a few things as this legal process played out to sort of reinforce and really to dance on my grave. There were 3 or 4 taglines and PR statements made that just weren't true, right? And so but whatever. I mean, that's what those agencies chose to do, and they're simply not true. And if time tells the true story here. And I'll just give an example, right? So if somebody says that guy right there, pointing to me, that's the biggest fraud in the history of sport. I mean, come on. that's that's easy to say at the time. That feels good for the other side to say, I'm sorry, that is not true. Right. And I know that. My competitors know that. My teammates know that. The people that I raced as a 15-year-old professional triathlete know that. The people that I raced as a 53-year-old high rocks athlete know that. So that's just they're just jerking themselves off. But hey,
no, I think that's I think it's because I think also the biggest and best people love to see that person fall, right, and then rebuild. Like someone like you, because you've had like between that, I was going to ask.
I don't think they considered the rebuild.
I mean,
I don't. I think I meant what I said. When you dance on somebody's grave, they're in the grave.
That's true.
And that's what they did. And that's but that I wasn't going to stay in the grave.
Well, also, it's interesting. I said this to you before. It's like you were probably such a low place, but it didn't seem like you ever got. It didn't take you into a bad place. I feel like you kept on succeeding over and over in other areas of life.
Yeah, but it's been 12, 13 years. That's a long time. So I had time. I didn't have time to be a professional athlete again, right? Time was up for me. I was 40 years old and was banned in cycling. But I had time to be patient and to reimagine, reassess, reinvent, reemerge in whatever way. So I had time for that. But there was a long period, and I say long, I mean five-ish years, where I was just patient and I just watched and waited and did all the things I just laid out, right? Primarily reimagining and reassessing.
But even like you get cancer at 25 years old, right? And like I read that your doctor gave you like basically 20% chance of living, right? And you were that little amount, you were able to, against all odds, beat that and then go on again to win. Like that to me says something about like your brain and your mindset and your will, I guess, overall the will is what I'm so fascinated by. Like, is that something that is just so innate in you? Like nothing can like you're like, it seems like you are like unstoppable. Is that something that you train for? Are you just born like that? Like, can people become that if they're not that way? Because you just are who you are, right?
I mean, look, I maybe. I mean, that all sounds good.
But how do you and then you went to win again, and you even.
I think some people are just better equipped. I was equipped to not quit, right? And so I didn't quit when I was diagnosed, and I fought for my life, and I got my life back, and then I fought to win the tours, and then that story got edited.
Well, tell me about how did you even were you able to ever train like that again? Never mind, like people who are the healthiest as I've ever I can't even imagine like cycling like around the block 40 times. How do you win?
The body comes back.
To that level? Like your cancer was all over your body, right? Like you.
Yeah, but then the cancer, I mean, you clearly.
But
I was racing sick, probably, I don't know for how long, but long enough to, in my mind, I thought, well, God, I've been sick I did the Olympics in Atlanta, 2 months before I was diagnosed.
I know it's
so part of me, if you're and I was just telling myself this, but I was like, wow, I've been sick for a long time. Like, just imagine when I get healthy and I get all of this stuff out of my body. Wow. Like, I'm going to be super badass then. Now, I don't know if that's true or not, but that's what I was telling myself.
And so did you do a lot of self-talk? Like, I want to know like the intricacies. Like, do you talk to yourself to like push you? Do you like, what's your, like, what goes on in your brain? Like, is there a narrative? Is there like something you say?
I don't push myself. It's been a minute since I pushed myself. Like back then, we trained a lot and pushed ourselves a lot, and I don't do that anymore. So it's
But you kind of like, you still are training daily.
yeah, but not like that. I'm just. I mean, I do. It depends if I ride my bike, that takes longer. But if I train in the gym or go for a run, I mean, it's an hour a day. It's not, it's
No, I know it's not. But what I'm saying, like, okay, when you got diagnosed with cancer and then you beat cancer, what was the process to get back to be like a champion again? Like, what did you do? What was the mental?
I just went straight back to.
It didn't even.
No, I mean, I took a year off. I took the year. I was all of 1997. I didn't race, so then I just. But when I went back, I straight back in.
My questions, I think that people like are, well, this is what I want to know is like you just overall, like if you are succeeding in a lot of different areas, like business, you've become like a rock star, and like with next ventures, the cycling, like it seems like everything that you do, there is like a massive level of success. Okay. So to me, that is indicative of someone's like mindset and will and determination and ambition and all these things, right?
Yep.
My question is really not even a question, but is that just something you've always been like, that's just who you are? And that's just how you, like, how does somebody, is there like actionable things that people can do to become better that way?
I mean, look, I grew up with a mother, a single mother, more or less a single mother, that had me very young, and she overcame a lot of odds, different than my obstacles. Mm-hmm. And she wasn't an athlete, but she just didn't. She never quit. Like, she was constantly
pushing,
just trying to defy the odds, right? Whether it's having a kid at 17 years old in Dallas, Texas, right? with no without a obviously she was in a relationship but had never met my father. So, but this was not an ideal situation. But she didn't care. I mean, she was dead set on having me, and we grew up poor, and I say grew up poor. I mean, we didn't grow up. At that time we were very poor. Then she remarried, and that relationship wasn't perfect. But she's stuck. She's tough. She has grit. She's overcome a lot. I do think that you either that's just a part of my DNA, but I've also absorbed a lot of that just by having watched her as I grew up and we grew up together, right? Keep in mind, my mom was 34 years old when I graduated high school.
Wow.
So I think there's a lot of that. I mean, if I look back to my diagnosis, and if I look back to the last decade, I attribute a lot of that to my mother, right? Who overcame a lot of long odds to build a life for herself and to build a life for me.
Would you say, what would be the one thing that people don't know about you? Is there something that you would say?
I think when people get to know me, I'm a lot goofier than people. Like, I don't take myself. I take myself seriously, but most of the time I do not take myself very seriously. So it's like a good example, right? Is obviously my kids know me, right? They're like, my dad is a goofball.
Would they say that about you?
Yeah, for sure. But their friends would be like, oh my God, and then they get around their friend's father, who's me, and they're like, wow, that's not what I expected. Like, this guy's is a goof.
I totally know what you mean. Like,
yeah,
because
I'm way more playful.
And you don't take yourself seriously.